All sorts of wild physical divergences are visible among the countless selenite varieties: oversized antennae, long skeletal limbs, inflated heads, diminutive heads and bloated bodies, etc. This extreme variety of phenotypes allows each individual to be physically tailored to perform a specific task. The interior of Luna is entirely perforated by selenite-made cities and passageways. The underground water channels are navigated, and light is provided by an extremely common variety of bioluminescent plankton. The selenites living in the deepest communities develop bioluminescence themselves, probably a result of consumption of the aforementioned plankton. Selenites typically wear elaborate clothing, including helmet and glasses, when adventuring out of their subterranean cities and onto the lunar surface. Their language consists of sounds and gestures, although the former are inimitable by humans and the latter are highly different from those used on Earth. However, at least some selenite castes are able to learn human speech and properly communicate with them. The selenites, as a very sophisticated species, far above humans in matters of intelligence, morality, and social structure. They are a unified civilization across their globe, governed by a single monarch which is referred to as the Grand Lunar. Prior to first contact, selenites tended to regard the Earth as a dead world, much like mankind regarded the Moon, due to the Earth's density and comparative lack of vast subterranean refuges where the natives might be able to hide from the elements. First contact between humans and selenites occurred in 1901, when Professor Caver and M.R. Bedford traveled to the Moon in an artificial sphere powered by cavorite, a material impervious to the pull of gravity. Their first interactions with the lunar natives resulted in hostilities, as the explorers were captured and, unable to communicate and believing the insectoids to be hostile, offered resistance to their captors and inadvertently killed them with ease, due to the selenites' naturally fragile physique. Afterwards, the Earth explorers got separated while searching for the sphere, and each was led to believe that the other had died. While Bedford managed to find the spaceship and return to Earth, Caver was found by the selenites once again and, finding them to be a peaceful and advanced society, ended up living among them for the next months before establishing radio communication with Bedford back on Earth. Cassiopeia are sapient insect humanoid species from the Milky Way galaxy from one of the star systems in the constellation of Cassiopeia. They are ruled by a queen named Cassiopeia. There was a queen named Cassiopeia of Ethiopia and an antagonist in the story of Perseus. Cassiopeia is a human/Asgard and insect hybrid, providing various advantages over other humans. Due to their Asgardian heritage, they has superhuman strength. Their bodily tissues have about 3 times the density of the bodily tissues of a human. Their body is much harder and more resistant to damage than the body of a human being. They can withstand great impact forces, falls from great heights, powerful energy blasts, and exposure to extremes in both temperature and pressures without sustaining injury. They age much slower than an human. They are also immune to all known earthly diseases and infections. The Cassiopeian are malevolent and disagreeable. They want the energy of your planet. They are master deceivers and infiltrators. Cassiopeian are shapeshifter with the ability to psionically shift the formation of their biological cells at will to change their appearance and thereby assume the form of other humans and animals. They can also alter their voice to duplicate exactly that of another person. The mosquitoes are a race of intelligent insects from the Pegasus constellation. They are a race of hostile mosquitoes that are mutated by alien blood, causing them to grow to human size. Now giants, their taste of blood becomes much more violent. Mosquitoes that drinks the blood of the deceased extraterrestrial pilot mutates from the alien DNA and grows to an abnormally large size. The Depenoid insectoid race of beings. They are also called hoppers. They are an intelligent race of grasshoppers with gold skin. They are very tall beings from 7 to 9 feet tall and weigh as much as 1,500 pounds. Their legs are long, good for long-ranged kick attacks. They are malevolent, bad, disagreeable, and they are ruthless, violent, cunning, manipulative, and egotistical dictators, who think nothing of killing other beings, whom they consider lower than dirt. They feel like humans are weak. The one thing they don't like is weakness. They are the fathers of the roach race. They come from the planet Depa in the constellation of Perseus. They are ruled by a queen. They hate all other insects. Some of them have somewhat compassionate and merciful for the roaches. Like we said, Depenoid sees mercy and compassion as weaknesses and relies mostly on fear to maintain authority, proving that they only acted merciful because the thought that they weren't a threat. They believe that the human are like simple-minded sheep and cannot really think for themselves, therefore taking advantage of them is alright. Deep down, Depenoid knows that the humans are stronger than they appear, especially in large numbers. For this reason, they actually fear them, but they hide it with their cruel and dictatorial demeanor and by taking advantage of their submissive nature. Their oppressive leader who would do anything to get food, even if it meant committing genocide. The ants, insectoid beings otherwise simply known as just ants, are a giant, biomechanical species of insect created in order to attack and conquer Earth and similar worlds. They are the most common known enemy. Ants hold the main physical anatomy mirroring that of normal ants, most commonly black ants. They have 6 legs, 2 segments to their body, and a large head with small pincers for mouths. What sets them apart, however, is their size, which can easily reach upwards of several dozen meters, outsizing most life on Earth. While commonly found in black, several mutated variants have notably different colorations compared to their regular counterparts thanks to the work of the Riskians mutations. Any and all soldiers are capable of spraying an orange-colored acidic liquid at their enemies, and also able to bite at close range to eat creatures. Ants can easily exceed in the hundreds like normal ants do, causing devastation to cities as they travel around their territory. They are ruled by queens who are the undisputed rulers of the ant hives. These ants are not only much larger than typical ants, but they also sport a set of insect wings, which in turn give them the ability to fly. Queen ants can grow to the size of a skyscraper, and are just as deadly, if not deadlier than, their soldiers. Like normal ants, queens are mothers to all soldiers, queens providing reproduction and having numerous amount of ant eggs at a time. Many of its fighting abilities exceed its normal relative by a large amount, having a higher distance range of attack, has an even more lethal power, and is a lot more durable than normal ants. They too are capable of shooting acid at enemies. They have speed, are very fast and can lift 10 times their weight. The Alia insectoid beings predator who are the ant people, the war clan that has been coming here for thousands of years to hunt prehistoric animals. They made a movie about these beings, it is called Aliens vs. Predator. Just check the movie out. The Alia people, pronounced Yaootja, also known as the Hish-Chu-10 or just Hish. The predators or hunters, are an advanced extraterrestrial species from the Andromeda Galaxy characterized by their hunting of other endangered species for sport and honor, including humans. It's the 7 feet ant people, although some have been known to grow to 8 feet or even taller. They are huge ants and operate like an ant bed. Members of an Alia colony talk with one another to coordinate their activities, but they never have to raise their voices. Instead, like the ants on your planet, the Alia communicate mainly using chemicals, which they smell with their antennae, dreadlocks, hair. Alia workers release pheromones with specific messages, such as follow me to food, or attack the intruder. The Alia make their nests in the ground and they will build very elaborate tunnels and chambers to house eggs, food and their young underground on the planets they dwell. The vast majority of Alia are opportunistic and will eat meat. This includes humans and animals. They have their young just like ants on your planet. The only Alia which can lay eggs is the queen Alia. Some tribes have been known to have alpha males as their leaders. In most tribes the strong males will mate with the queen Alia and the queen lays the eggs within a special chamber inside the mountain. Usually, the queen has the colonies built around them and they are the center of most of the activity around the colony. Queens can lay thousands of eggs over time. They have worker ants, they have war ants. Which have 2 types, they have the ground army and a drone air army. Most Yautja are carnivorous, but there are some species which feed exclusively on plants. For example, good ones who were hired by the Zeta Council to come here to control the insect beings the tall ball white brought to the Milky Way galaxy. They are almost exclusively herbivores. They first came from the planet Yautja in the Andromeda galaxy. They came to the Milky Way galaxy and set up bases. On the planet Yautja it is covered with mountains, which they live in like an ant bed. Yautja mounds are built by worker Yautja that remove below ground soil they excavate during tunneling and nest chamber construction. That soil is then deposited above ground, thus forming the mound. These beings are like super-size ants, so their mound is mountains, some being about 2 miles high. The Yautja are bipedal humanoids, physically distinguishable from humans by their greater height, the long, hair-like appendages on their heads that look like dreadlocks, their reptilian skin and their faces, which feature arthropod-like mandibles and no visible nose. Yautja are a sentient, and humanoid race that breathe an atmosphere similar to that of Earth's, but possess a level of technological advancement far in excess of anything available to humans. The Yautja stalk and kill their prey using a combination of highly advanced technology, such as active camouflage and energy weapons, combined with comparatively primitive traditional weapons, such as blades, spears and nets. The Yautja often ritualistically mutilate their prey and usually claim a trophy from their kills. Capable of interstellar travel in starships, the Yautja have hunted on Earth for thousands of years. The wasp insectoid being is an extremely aggressive and territorial insect that comes in many different varieties. They come from the Pegasus constellation. They can live up to 1,200 years old. The wasp is quite large in comparison to most insects, estimated to be between 1.5 and 6 feet in height. It has 4 long legs, 2 wings, and a long, thin abdomen that gets thicker near the bottom. The end is tipped by a razor-sharp barb, which is supposedly strong enough to damage steel. The wasp is the normal subspecies. The wasp queen produces a jelly that is so highly valued that it is harvested on the planet Ether, even though the death toll for doing so is astronomical. The barbed wasp is a much more aggressive and dangerous version of its other cousin. They travel in large swarms, attacking virtually everything that threatens them or their hive. They are capable of firing their stinger as a projectile, and can regrow them in mere seconds. 2 subvarieties are the red barbed war wasp, which uses body heat to fire a heated spine, and the blue barbed war wasp, which requires a very cool environment to fire cold spines. Ram wasps prefer to circle their target in groups. Once they are all ready, they use a coordinated attack which is made possible by a shared hive mind. Their attack is a fierce ram attack using their entire body for a weapon. Black wasps are the result of an parasite possessing a war wasp. It is able to fire a dark energy stinger. It is more durable than its good brothers. Hives are the natural homes of wasps. Built from whatever materials are available, these nests will continue to release wasps in defense. An artificial and especially tough version of a hive, these are home exclusively to ram wasps. Aside from the creatures that live in it, it has no means of attacking or defending itself. So far, this has only been encountered on Talon 4. The wasp reproduces by parthenogenesis and is capable of laying over 200 eggs per season. The sting of a war wasp is dangerous enough to inject a huge dose of poison into a creature. Superinteressant Venusians are small fossorial organisms native to planet Venus. They breathe oxygen and feed on sulfur compounds and other mineral and organic substances of Venus soil. Venusians have many strong, extendable limbs with a sharp claw on the end, which they use to dig their way in the underground in search of nutrients and water. They also use these claws to avoid being carried by the strong winds when venturing on the surface. The upper part of their body is protected by a thick carapace made out of keratin, which protects the Venusian from the extreme heat and the corrosive acids of the planet's atmosphere. Because of the high concentration of sulfur compounds in the Venusian's body, the creature smells like rotten eggs. The Brinker Roots are a non-sapient species native to Europa presented as an imaginary example of extraterrestrial life in the book Picture Atlas of Our Universe, by National Geographic. Europa, or Jupiter 2, is the smallest of the 4 Galilean moons orbiting Jupiter, and the 6th closest to the planet of all the 79 known moons of Jupiter. It is also the 6th largest moon in the solar system. Brinker Roots exhibit bilateral symmetry and use the only pair of limbs they have to skate across the ice plains of the home world, Europa. Their round head is supported by a long neck, roughly as long as the tail. They have a pair of large blue eyes with vertical pupils. 6 appendages grow out from the back of their head. As they are autotrophs and live exposed to the vacuum, Brinker Roots have neither mouth nor nostrils. The skin shows green pigmentation as Brinker Roots are photosynthetic, except for the turquoise spots under the belly. Most noticeably, a coil-like crest begins at the head and ends midway in the tail, which Brinker Roots use to extract energy from Jupiter's strong magnetic field. Beings from John Carter book about Venus. The Venusian puss from Venus bodies have 5-fold symmetry. They have 5 eyes, mouths, tentacle-like arms, legs and eyes. Each leg ends in a star-shaped hoof and each arm ends in a 5-fingered flower-like hand. Their skin is bark-like. Their mouths are Y-shaped and filled with teeth. The puss reproduce by mating in groups in the bud ponds each year. At least 2 females are required to create a fertile union. They reproduce by budding. Their budlings are blind and are not active out of water. Budlings have tiny membranous rotors, which they can use to fly. Their blood is purple. Puss have very good hearing. Puss are big enough that humans can ride easily on the backs of adults. Puss are allergic to all free metals except gold and, to some extent, platinum and titanium, all of which are rare on Venus. They have dart guns which fire wooded darts with iron tips, which poison them. Because of this allergy, they use a golden-colored wood native to Venus to make buildings and even guns. They build tools out of wood, mainly for farming and traveling. They eat the memory centers of the brains of their dead in order to remember them. This involves absorption of the memories of whoever's brain they are eating. Eating the brain of a dead puss imparts some of their memories to the eater. It works on puss, humans, and time lords. They believe that when they die, they go to Dalgohidal, meaning the land which is no land. The puss regard punctuality as a virtue, especially at funerals. A generation is about 33 years. Puss civilization lasted at least 3 million years. The Alias are an insectoid life form originating from the planet Torculan. They are 8-legged creatures the size of an hippopotamus. Their forelimbs are tipped by large, sharp, probing claws, which have the ability to spin 360 degrees like a drill. They are sentient, able to tap in the mind of other species. They possess an exoskeleton, and although they look more like fat green cockroaches than spiders, they can secrete web-like silky strands of organic webbing that they weave into neural networks. This substance is used to absorb psychic energy on which the bugs feed. Prey items are trapped in these webs, at which time the Alia immobilize them, interface with their minds, and psychically consume their intelligence. The webs have been weaved in a way that they have become the circuitry of a so-created neuronic network, therefore giving a form of sentience to the planet. It has developed to a point where it can reshape parts of itself to build structures and move objects around. The planet is used by the therapists, also called Torcoli, a highly advanced civilization of giant simians who use it as a giant living computer for the psychiatric ward they built on it and in which they treated patients from several interstellar civilizations. The therapists are large, at least 4 to 6 meters tall simian humanoids. Most for their body is covered with blue fur and only their face, hands, feet, and tail appear to be bald. They have developed a spacefaring civilization and are known to exploit a psychiatric ward on the planet Torculan. Source: The Transformers web world. The Koldan insect beings, also called the Clackan, they live on a world orbiting the star Koldan in the Orion constellation. Clackan are a colonial insectoid species which developed an aggressive spacefaring civilization. Xenophobic, somewhat expansionistic, and constantly building and producing, the Claccans do not mix at all with other species. The Clackan is one of the first 10 original races that was introduced within Master of Orion in 1993. Their general appearance of ant and or mantis insect-like creatures stayed the same. The Claccans are a large ant-like race with an extremely ordered society. Each individual is born to serve a single purpose, and does so without question. As a result, the Claccans are mobilized into an industrious society where each unit of population produces double the output of other races. The Claccans' bonus is cumulative with planetology bonuses. Claccans excel in quickly making productive new colonies. The Claccans are an insectoid people from a large home world. Though they're not exactly a hive mind, the Clackan communication system is fast and efficient, and the population is completely satisfied with their lives. This is reflected in their extreme industriousness. Clackan farmers produce one more food each than those of other races, and their workers also give +1 to production. The entire race communicates, thinks, and operates virtually as one. All this makes the Clackan practically, if not actually, a shared consciousness, and has paved the way for their successful unification government. The downside to all this thinking alike is that the Claccans are rather uncreative. Source: Master of Orion. The Trinteloids insect beings were predatory, non-sentient, spider-like creatures native to Atollon in the Pegasus star system. They were resistant to blaster bolts and highly sensitive to negative emotions, making them extremely difficult to tame with the force. They were repelled by the signal emitted by sensor beacons. Keep in mind there are different types of Trinteloids. There are about 40,000 types in the galaxy. Some Trinteloid are 6 to 10-legged, spider-like creatures that had durable skin and cocooned their prey in underground hives. They also had beaked mouths surrounded by a pair of fanged pedipalps. Their skin was highly resistant to blaster bolts, including fire from starship cannons. However, their eyes were vulnerable, and they were also vulnerable to lightsabers and grenades. Trinteloids were repelled by the signal emitted by sensor beacons. They feasted primarily upon other insects. They were highly sensitive to negative emotions.